Hey, welcome to the 40 Finance Channel investors. My name's Jeff Beers. Today, I'm going to do something different and talk about one of the more obscure investments in my stock portfolio, and that is the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. The Gbtc is basically an alternative way to invest in Bitcoin, and I found it pretty convenient myself. For a lot of different reasons. So I just thought I'd do a review of what this thing is, what are the pros and cons, in case you might be interested in investing in it. Obviously, Bitcoin has been in the news quite a bit here over the past 6 or 7 months, and it's a very intriguing investment opportunity. Honestly, for me, it's one that I sort of passively follow. I'm definitely interested in seeing what the prices are, every week or two. But I don't really get into the crypto websites, and I don't trade other cryptocurrencies. For me, it's really just like a hedge on something that may actually turn into something more down the road. Reminder, as always, that my stock picks and projections, they're just my opinion for your entertainment. Please make sure you do your own research and due diligence. And if you like stock market analysis and other personal finance videos, then be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. This really helps get the word out about the 40 Finance channel. Thank you to everyone who has supported me so far. All right, so the first thing to know about the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust is it's not for everybody. It's definitely scoped out for a different kind of investor. There's plenty of different ways to invest in Bitcoin nowadays. But back when I first started looking at it in 2018 or 2019, there was not as many different ways. And my journey sort of started, I believe, at CoinDesk, trying to get an account, trying to buy some Bitcoin during that run-up. And they never got through all the applications, and they never approved everybody. So I ended up in a world where I literally had no access to purchase Bitcoin during that run-up. So I just started doing some basic research and came across the Gbtc, and I found out that I could just buy this on my investing account and keep it in there. And this was a really attractive alternative for me personally for a number of reasons. The most obvious, obviously, is not having to have a separate account and worry about storage and security of something that's a little squishy to begin with. But beyond those sort of standard reservations that I think every first-time crypto investor has, Gbtc also is relatively affordable on a per-share price, and that allows you to kind of dink and dunk your way in to exposure without having to put down the full amount, if you will, for an actual Bitcoin, which is getting quite expensive. As I'm doing this video, Bitcoin's over $30,000. So being able to get in at kind of a molecular level makes a lot of sense for somebody like me who is interested in what could happen 5 to 7 years down the line. But on the same token, I'm not sacrificing my strong belief in stocks and my ability to look at companies and project gains in the future. I'm not going to wake up one day and just put on a new hat and say I'm a crypto investor. So this, for me, I would say Bitcoin is one of those 1% plays. And in that scenario, I think Gbtc makes a lot of sense. Okay, this is the Grayscale actual website. They offer several different trusts, but we'll just focus for this video on the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. And they do a pretty good job of highlighting, the rationale behind this. It's the first publicly quoted, and that's important. You're going to see a lot of sort of weird terminology on this because it is a trust, and it's not going to be exactly apples to apples like a stock, but it is available in most trading accounts. I have 2 different trading accounts, one at Fidelity, one at Ally, and actually opened another one in Webull this year, and Gbtc is in there as well. And this first paragraph can kind of tell you if this is going to be the right show for you. Grayscale Bitcoin Trust is solely and passively invested in Bitcoin, enabling investors to gain exposure to BTC in the form of a security while avoiding the challenges of buying, storing, and safekeeping BTC directly. Now, in the 2 or 3 years since I've been involve this sort of buying, storing, and safekeeping world has definitely gotten a lot better, particularly with Square and soon to be PayPal offering direct investment opportunities. But when I started, this was definitely a thing. And as far as I'm concerned, at least in the percentage that I want to play around with Bitcoin, this serves my purpose for all of the reasons stated above. Okay, now the most important thing I want to cover on this video is just the sort of fee structure and how it relates to Bitcoin's actual price. So we'll look at the stock ticker in a minute, but it's GBTC. And you can see that they have an annual fee of 2%. And the amount of Bitcoin you own per share is this 0.000949 number. And I'll share with you some math so that we can kind of figure out what that all means. You can see that there is 675 million shares outstanding. So this is not some small obscure fund that, you need some sort of special, VIP invitation to get into. All right, looking at the ticker here on Yahoo, you can see the GBTC, and this is an over-the-counter investment, so it is not listed on NASDAQ or anything like that. So just make sure you understand that it is not a stock. And if you probably dug pretty deep into the terms and conditions, they probably have all sorts of language about it not being a stock and what's the difference and all that. But for purposes of my investment level, frankly, I don't really care because I'm just trying to get some exposure to Bitcoin. This down here is the 1-year chart, and you see we're at $31.93 on the last day of this chart. I have been in this in a couple different worlds. Let's switch to a 5-year. This here in the winter of 17, heading into the holidays, was the big run up for Bitcoin. And this is where I applied for a crypto trading account at Coinbase or somewhere and couldn't get in. So that's how I sort of came to the conclusion of buying GBTC. I believe I was in, pretty darn near the high. Somewhere in the neighborhood of $18 or $19 sounds about right. And I just let that, stand pat, and it went down quite a bit. And I just left it off to the sidelines with the philosophy that, it hit 20,000 or whatever it did one time. It can probably go back there. And then when the pandemic came, Bitcoin fell with the rest of the market. So I picked up another lot of shares, in this sort of $7 range or so, just to balance out my cost basis, which I checked on prior to doing this video, and I sit in the neighborhood of $9.90 for my GBTC shares. And obviously Bitcoin has went up quite a bit, so those shares all stand in the range of $32 today. All right, to save us some time, I did a little math here so that you guys can understand exactly what you're getting with GBTC. And this is all based on the closing price of January 20th. So when we were on the Grayscale website, we know that one share of GBTC equals this 0.00949 of an actual Bitcoin. So that's how much of a single Bitcoin you own when you purchase one share of GBTC. What that works out to be is that you would need 1,053.65 shares of GBTC to equal one Bitcoin. So if you walk away from this video and you're like, man, I kind of want to get in there and I'm just going to equal one share of Bitcoin, this is how many shares you would have to buy regardless of what the price is for the day. So if Bitcoin dropped in half tomorrow or doubled, either way, you still need to get approximately this many shares of GBTC to have the equivalent of one Bitcoin. All right, so beyond these core metrics, if we look at the close of the trading day on 1/20/21, and I've already done this research for you, so you just have to trust me on this one. Bitcoin at 4 p.m. EST traded at 34,338.04. GBTC per share was trading at 35.35 at 4 p.m. EST. So that was the close of the traditional stock market. Obviously, Bitcoin market is open 24/7, So we just have to pick a place that we can compare stuff apples to apples. All right, so now the question is, how much is this price equal when compared to the full price of Bitcoin? And in order to do that, you have to use the amount of shares of Gbtc you would need to equal 1 Bitcoin. So if precisely at 4 o'clock on 1/20/21, we bought 1,053.65 shares of Gbtc at $35.35, we would pay a total of $37,246 and change. At that exact same moment, we know the price of Bitcoin was $34,338.04. So if you look at the difference of what we paid, 37 and change minus 34 and change, that is a difference or a spread of $2,908. That equals 7.8%. This is the premium that you pay to have this Gbtc vehicle. So you are going to pay more to own Bitcoin via Gbtc than you are if you bought it directly through like your Square or PayPal account. Now, some people would see 7.8% and kind of freak out and be like, those fees are ridiculous. I can't believe what you're paying, blah, blah, blah. But you have to remember that this is a baked in cost. So you're trading the share value. You're not trading the Bitcoin value. So if Bitcoin went up, the core Bitcoin went up in price, Gbtc would go up in price as well. And if you're interested in exiting your trade, you would sell your shares at the new price. So no one's really paying 7.8% technically, because the next person who buys it from you has to pay that price too. So it's all in the way you kind of look at it. And for me, the convenience outweighs the fees. Now, just for fun down here, if we ramped back down into a single share price minus the 7.8%, the price of Gbtc at this level of 0.00949 should be $32.59. We know that the market price is $35.35, but it's about a $3 some odd premium per share. And I just include that there so you got an idea on a smaller scale what you're paying. All right, so those are some of the kind of like pros and cons of Gbtc. The cons being mostly on the fee side, but in my opinion, they're relative fees because you're buying with the fees baked in and you're also selling with the fees baked in. So nowhere in the world do you take your Gbtc shares to a bank or something and try to sell them for the value of Bitcoin. That transaction never happens. So the fees are relative, and keep that in mind because if you are looking to invest in Bitcoin and you have some of the same concerns that I have, this makes for a great vehicle. Now, on the trust side of things, I can tell you that Grayscale Bitcoin Trust is pretty much widely accepted. I know that ARK uses it for exposure to Bitcoin in some of their funds. As a matter of fact, that's where I first discovered it. I know ARK is super popular now. I've been in their fund since like 2017. And when I was going through their holdings one day, I happened to see that, so I investigated more. And at least when I last checked on ARK funds about a month ago, they were still holding it in some of their ETFs. You'll also notice if you go to like volume reports, trading volume reports, you'll notice that Gbtc is always one of the highest volume trades of the day. Almost always a top 10 pick, at least right now, when we're in this bull run for Bitcoin. So again, I don't want you to think it's some obscure thing or it's like an affiliate sale or something that I'm doing. It has nothing to do with that. There's no links to sign up. There's no private invitations. This is publicly traded but it is over the counter. But I feel strong enough that Grayscale is a reputable company that part of things doesn't scare me too much. Now, I will say if I ever got serious about crypto or Bitcoin in general, where I kind of thought like, hey, in a year or two, this might be an actual like moving currency that we'll need on an international scale, of course I would transition over and buy the assets myself in some sort of crypto wallet. But for now, the most important thing for me is just not get left behind if I wake up one day and Bitcoin does go to $100,000 or something like that. At least I have my little stake in the game. In addition to Gbtc, I'm also very bullish on PayPal, as most of you know. And starting this year, I also got into Square. So if you're looking for other alternatives for exposure to Bitcoin, those are two sites that you can check out. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this peek behind the scenes of Gbtc and a little bit of an explanation of why I use it as opposed to owning the coins directly. Let me know if you're interested in Gbtc in the comments, or if you own it, or if you just like to buy your own coins straight up. I'd love to hear from you down below. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.